Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sixer Sense podcast. I'm your host Lucas with Chris, and we have a special guest on tonight in honor of the NBA Finals. My friend and fellow NBA reporter Dusty Garza. He is a syndicated NBA writer and columnist, and you can find him on Twitter X as Spurs Reporter and on Dunk Digest. Dusty, glad to finally have you on this podcast. I've had you on other podcasts, but glad to have you here, bud.
Thank you for having me and for being patient with me, as I know we're dealing with a different time zone, et cetera. But I'm really happy to be here. And every time you and I get together, all we do is shoot hoops and talk hoops, and we're all about hoops. So this should be an interesting conversation. Can't wait to dive in.
Absolutely, Dusty. Great guy, guys. Check him out. He's your guy if you like anything Spurs. If you want to check up on Julian Champagnie, as I know some Sixers fans would like to, Dusty's your guy. Absolutely. So with that being said, Chris, go ahead, my man.
Yeah, Dusty, thank you for hopping on.
No, thanks for having me, Chris.
Glad to meet you. Yeah, and let's dive into game one. We're recording Thursday evening here. Obviously, the Knicks took game one, 105-95, and I guess what would maybe be considered an upset. 30 points for Jalen Brunson. He was awesome down the stretch. A bit of a quiet night for Wemby. Finished with 26-12, but also had 6 turnovers, 17 for Steph Castle, 16 points for our guy Julian Champagnie. What were your main takeaways from game one, Dusty? How are you feeling?
You know, the very first thing that I thought of, even leading up to the game, because, you know, the NBA Finals are a whole different level, a whole different stage, not necessarily from a pressure standpoint, which is obvious, but also there's so much excitement going on. The fans are excited at a different level. The media has converged on San Antonio. Everybody and anybody in basketball is at the finals, right? And you're getting so much attention. But the very first thing I thought of is, am I sensing an appropriate level of fear, which was something that Greg Popovich used to talk about. You've got to have an appropriate level of fear. And I saw actually a lot of relaxed Spurs, young Spurs who were excited. And I didn't, you know, I guess, you know, you also look at the betting markets and so forth. Everyone just thought, oh, San Antonio is going to win. Well, not everybody, but a large majority of people did. And even the percentages of betting money, the flow coming into the game had the Spurs, you know, at 65, 70% favorites to win. And I thought to myself, has anybody been watching this Knicks team? And in particular, has anybody been watching the games that the Spurs played against the Knicks this year? These guys beat us for the NBA Cup final, but also beat us handily other times. And don't tell me that doesn't matter, because you just spent a lot of time telling me that the times we beat the Oklahoma City Thunder during the regular season definitely mattered. So I was a little bit concerned going in, but at the same time, and we can talk about this because Lucas and I, you and I have talked about it, is, you know, was I feeling nervous? No, I try to put my analyst hat on and try to really remove myself emotionally from the game, even though, of course, I grew up a Spurs fan and I've been following and writing about the team for 30 years, covering the team in different aspects and different capacities. But the reality is, you try to not let your emotions and your cheering and so on and so forth basically get in the way of you doing your job. So I wasn't at all, or at least as close as possible, not emotionally involved, and try to look at it from a black and white, you know, perspective. And I saw a lot of things that bothered me, to be honest. And of course, you know, the first one, and a lot of people are jumping on Wemby, especially Spurs fans. They're like, well, why doesn't he just live in the paint? What is so difficult about living in the paint? And what's difficult about living in the paint is that the other teams are doing as much as possible to try to keep you out of the paint. That's number one. And a lot of fans don't see that. But when you see the game as well as you can see it from sort of a coaching perspective and so on and so forth, you realize these teams are running certain plays and doing certain things defensively to keep you out of the paint.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we saw yesterday. Unfortunately, and this is the part that bothers me, is Wemby appears at times to be checked out and to just be willing to live out in the perimeter. And it gets especially frustrating for all of us, including myself, when you see him settling for one 3-point shot after another when they are not going down on that night. Mm-hmm. You would think, okay, we've seen this script several times in the postseason. We saw it many, many times during the regular season. Although, of course, his 3-point shooting was incredible this past year. Mm-hmm. The reality is you get frustrated because you wish that there were some in-game, change or some schism that you could, shift and try to make some changes right there. And if we can all see it, well, can't the coaches see it? So you get frustrated. And then now you see a huge amount of media this morning jumping all over Mitch Johnson, calling him out, saying his game plan wasn't right, so on and so forth. But the one thing
I don't blame him. I think Wemby was tired. I think that's why he wasn't aggressive. I think he looked tired. He was already grabbing his pant legs in the first quarter.
Giveaway.
Yeah, look. When you're a big man and you're tired, you're not going to do the dirty work down on the post. So we all know that. So and I don't mean to cut you off here, but he just looked tired. He looked tired, man. That's the honest truth. They just got out of the
happens, right?
You played against a really tough team, OKC. Hardenstein did a good job against you. We can not worry about Chet. That's not important right now. But Hardenstein did a good job. And then in the series before, you had to play against Gobert, which, granted, he had a good series against Gobert. Gobert's still a physical defender. So, and then the series before that, he played against Donovan Clingan, who is a very underrated defensive center, too. So, 3 series of playing.
The question
really
becomes, if from a coaching standpoint, we've got 3-4 centers sitting on our bench, right? If Wemby is tired, why leave Wemby in there? Because he becomes detrimental to your team's performance instead of helping you in any way. And you're talking about, in this particular series, one of the best rebounding teams in the NBA.
Yeah.
And you need somebody. As a matter of fact, I've been saying this for weeks, or if not months. Why not slide Wemby over to the 4 so that he works less, and you have one of our big men, take your pick, helping him in there in the paint so that he's not doing all of the work. And I agree with you, Lucas. He does look tired and he does look gassed because he's doing all of this work. So,
Who would you choose out of between Bismack Biyombo, Luke Cornett, and I think Mason Plumlee? Who would you, or even Kelly Olynyk? Who would you choose out of that tree?
In this particular series, because that answer comes back different for each series.
That's fair.
In this particular series, my guy would be Mason Plumlee. Believe it or not,
okay,
he's going to bring you a level of physicality that the other guys almost can't. So that's who my guy would have been this time around, especially against Cat. And we saw Cat. I agree with you. You can tell there are signs, there are tells that Wemby was tired. I mean, Cat blew by him a few times.
Cat did that to our center too, so don't feel bad about that. But Joel was also not healthy either. So
of course, but Joel also is built differently than Wemby, and I would say he's not as quick as Wemby, and as athletic as Wemby. And so when you're watching that play out in real time in the NBA Finals, mind you, when there is so much at stake, you pull your hair out, especially Spurs fans. But, Wemby said something yesterday that really got a lot of people's attention, which was, I don't even have to play well. I just have to play normal for the next game. And, man, that speaks volumes because he's right. He played so bad that all he has to do is play normal, at least for the next game. And that's the difference in the games, right there.
He's not wrong, but I don't like that mentality. That's not the mentality you need to have in the NBA Finals.
For sure.
Yeah. Look,
but it was a way of, I guess, me bringing that up is a way of amplifying just how bad things were.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Wimby's mentality. I think he's built right. I think
Mm-hmm.
we've seen how competitive he is throughout these playoffs, especially in the OKC series. Um,
Mm-hmm.
how much, Dusty, do you think that like the rest factor played into this game? Because New York has played like 12 games in a month or whatever. Like they've had so much time off between these sweeps, whereas San Antonio has played a 6 game series and then a very physical and tiring 7 game series against OKC back to back. They went pretty much right into this series. How do you think the rest factor kind of impacted this game?
It's hard to say because, I mean, on the one hand, the Spurs did get 3 days off, which they haven't had in a while. You know, they
Mm-hmm.
were playing every other day. This schedule the NBA's got these teams on is insane. And I understand it. You know, you got to pay the bills, and the bills are the television ratings, and you got to keep people's attention. And whatever they're doing, they're not going to stop doing it because they're experiencing the highest ratings they've seen in forever.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, setting up the schedule this way is good for the audience and for the television audience in particular, a worldwide television audience, mind you. All of that is positive, but it's horrible for the team because the players are doing the best they can to recover using whatever tools they can to recover. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
saw him posted a video of Keldon Johnson at a private, like sort of a med spa recovery place using some of their tools to
Mm-hmm.
recover. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, like this is insane, right? And you're talking about you know, using whatever means necessary to try to recover. So, is it an issue? Yeah, we can't ignore it, especially when we see things like that. For sure, the players are having a difficult time physically, and they're tired, and so forth. But it's not an excuse. You've also got in a situation like this, and there's a reason for it, which we can talk a little bit about. But there's a there's a reason why coaches only go 8, 9 players deep when you get this far in the playoffs. But in this particular case, you're talking about one of the deepest, if not the deepest team in the NBA with the Spurs. You've got other choices. You've got other very talented players, very good players that can, you know, jump in for a few more minutes while your guys are tired. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, people are upset with Mitch Johnson. I think they feel that the schemes were not very good yesterday. But I also feel like that wasn't our brand of Spurs basketball.
It wasn't.
15 assists total, which is insane for us. You know, we're all about supposedly the beautiful game and sharing the ball and moving the ball and so forth. You didn't see that yesterday. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people trying to be heroes and do it all by themselves. And I don't blame them because they're winners and they want to win and they want to try to take things into their own hands. But that's not our brand of basketball. So, Chris, to answer your question, yeah, I think it's definitely a factor, but it's not an excuse. It
Just
shouldn't be
one.
the excuse.
Just one more thing before we move on to our next point. What's going on with De'Aaron Fox, and is this something that we should worry about?
Well, you know, that's the other talking point today. And I did tweet about this and started getting, I haven't checked on it, but I started getting a lot of responses from people. I said, look, we've already established that De'Aaron Fox is your guy, your main ball handler for a
Mm-hmm.
reason.
Yeah.
When he wasn't around, when he had those injury games, you know, we were turning the ball over like crazy. We've got
Yeah.
two guys who arguably in a perfect world of positionless basketball, you got
Mm-hmm.
guys who can handle the ball, who can, you know, go downhill and score. And I'm talking, of course, about Castle and Dillon,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not the experienced calming force that De'Aaron Fox is, who can take over the operations of the game and quarterback your team into a victory. So you got to play De'Aaron Fox. Where
Mm-hmm.
I had a problem was we played him, I think, more than we should have when Dillon probably should have gotten more minutes. I mean, Dillon was arguably top 2, top 3 player in the game yesterday for the Spurs,
Mm-hmm.
and he's sitting on the bench a lot longer than anybody expected, to which earlier today, Mitch Johnson said, Yeah, I had a choice to either, leave him in there or take him out, but I saw some things from a coaching perspective from the group that was out there, and I decided to leave him on. But has De'Aaron Fox been disappearing? Yes. Uh, is De'Aaron Fox a guy that should be probably a little more, prominent statistically than we've seen throughout these NBA playoffs? Absolutely. He's your number one most paid guy. And everybody always brings that up. Like, why are we paying this guy so much money? You're paying this guy because he was brought in to do a job that most of the time he has done. But when you lose and when you see his statistics during those losses, especially heavy losses like yesterday, that's when people chime up and chirp up and start talking about it. But De'Aaron Fox ain't going anywhere. These two new young studs, the rest of the Slash brothers, are going to need him, and they're going to learn this summer and improve that part of their game, I believe. But everybody, clamoring for De'Aaron to get traded ain't happening, man. He's here for a reason.
Yeah, me and you have talked about De'Aaron Fox's future with the Spurs in the past. Not diving into too much of that, but Dusty, what adjustments do the Spurs need to make before Game 2?
Well, they do need to show up with that sense of urgency and a level of appropriate respect for their competition. I think that's critical. Mm-hmm. The Spurs have always responded after losses like this. So I have no doubt that they will respond and change and, mentally, I guess, adjust that. From what I understand, they didn't watch too much film today. They kind of already knew what some of the issues were. The question for me is always like, if you already know what the issues are, why not address them real time? That's frustrating. But I would think also, again, my biggest change, if I were the coach, is I would move Wemby over to the 4 position so that he has more freedom, more options, and is being less worked. He's putting in so much energy and so much effort right now at the 5, taking care of a very good New York front court in Mitchell Robinson and Cat. Why do that? Why make the guy suffer and have him work so much more overtime? So we're going to see a different game, but I also expect a very different game from New York. I mean, New York, the Spurs were able to contain some guys that normally, you're not able to contain. So they're going to also have some adjustments. And I think we're going to see a really good battle for Game 2. It's going to be a lot more intense. We're going to see that level of basketball that we've been seeing in the Western Conference games during the last series, especially. We've been seeing some of the best basketball ever televised, I believe. I mean, the chess match, the nuances, making sure you don't screw up, that you have taken advantage of every possible tool has been on display from both sides, from OKC and the Spurs in the last series. And I'm looking forward to that. That's what I'm wanting to tune in for, some really good basketball. And I thought the refs, by the way, were not too much of an issue yesterday. I thought they called the game clean, and that's been a headline grabber as well. Okay. We may see Tony Brothers, though, next game. And if not the next game, then the first one in New York. It's going to happen, and fans in San Antonio especially are bracing for that.
Yeah, Tony Brothers is a tough hang sometimes.
And how does that make any sense? Like, everybody, all of us are seeing the continuous, the vision problems, whether they be mental vision, not to be disrespectful to Mr. Brothers. He's been doing this for 32 years or longer, but you got to wonder, like, what's going on mentally sometimes. And then visually, even worse, like, wait a minute, you got coaches in front of you calling for timeout. Why aren't you calling timeout? You've got players, obviously, trying to injure each other. Why aren't you calling that? these are rules. And yet, through all the F-ups, he still gets picked to be one of the last remaining 12 referees who are supposed to be the best. They are supposed to be the all-stars of refereeing. I don't get that unless you buy into there's some scripted stuff going on here that we don't really know about. We can only guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I imagine it's just an experience thing, but I tend to agree that it's not ideal.
You're probably right, Chris. I mean, you've got the worker who's been at it the longest, and he has easily, right?
Yeah.
You got to let him into the last 12, though, if your record hasn't been so good recently. I have a problem with that, but I'm glad I'm not the guy calling that.
Yeah, no, me too. I'm with you. Well, Dusty, they flashed the stat after the game last night on the broadcast, and it's that the winner of Game 1 has won the finals 70% of the time historically. Obviously, the Knicks have now won 12 straight in these playoffs. They are on a historically hot run. They've been one of the most dominant teams in NBA history over the last month. But then you also look at yesterday's game where Wemby was playing quite poorly, and the Spurs were still up for very long stretches, especially in those first three quarters. This was a very close game. It took a pretty heroic effort from Brunson late to pull the Knicks ahead. What's the panic meter right now for the Spurs, do you think? Are you worried at all? What are your feelings as far as like San Antonio's chances in this series?
Well, the DEFCON alarm is like level 4 is like the most, we're at DEFCON 4, like we're about to go into nuclear war. I think we're at a level 2, which we should have been, going into the game yesterday. So I think there's not really panic, but there's definitely more respect. And I'm just scratching my head, blown away that we're even talking about that. But the thing that worries me, Chris, is you look at, again, the last games of this year. San Antonio yesterday turned in their worst offensive performance of the year. And when you say that doesn't just include how many shots they took and missed. You're talking about their ability to set up the half-court game, the efficiency of their half-court game, sharing the ball, all the things we talked about. And they were horrible. And then you look back at a March 1st game right near the same level. And that March 1st game was the New York Knicks. So there's something that the Knicks are either exposing or doing or both that is causing this San Antonio team, which is usually very efficient, very fast, very good, to stumble. And so, that brings up a very interesting, metric kind of going forward. To answer your question, I think there are lots of things that the Spurs can adjust. I believe the Spurs coaching staff is obviously very, very good as well. And there will be some adjustments, some stuff that the players and the coaches, even today at shoot around, we're not talking about. But we have responded. The Spurs have responded historically. And you want to talk about the 70% chance of going on to win the finals after winning the first game? Yeah, we can talk about things like that. And they're different, things that you can bring up like that. They're not rules, obviously, but you got to pay attention to them, right? And also, on the other hand, you got to pay attention to the fact that these Spurs don't know any better. We got the youngest or second youngest as a team, guys that are in the NBA finals. And they don't know any better. Like, they're not supposed to be here, but yet they are. So things like that kind of go out the window once they start playing Spurs basketball. And I'm not too worried about it right now. Ask me after game 4, maybe, game 3.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I mean, all of NBA history probably tells us that the Sixers don't come back from 3-1 against Boston. So, things.
And tell me about that, okay? What caught you guys? What caught the Sixers off guard against this team? Because I know I was texting Lucas and I was texting some of my other fans who are huge Philly fans and congratulating them for getting, to the next round, thinking we may see you guys in the finals. You guys are playing so well. What
he
caught
said
you off guard?
Sixers Spurs finals. That's what he texted me.
I said, man, fans would love that. Embiid against Wemby, holy cow, right? And that was at the time. And then all of a sudden, boom, we saw a whole new reality.
So a few things happen. Yeah. So go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, so what caught you guys off guard with this Knicks team?
Do you
what
mind
was
if I
the
go
shocker,
first?
the surprise there?
So I think a few things happened here. One, I think historically, Joel usually dominates Cat. Historically, that usually happens. We were expecting that. That did not happen. In fact, the inverse happened. That was a big part of that. Cat has been playing out of his mind. Okay, that's number one. Number two, we were not respecting Josh Hart as an offensive weapon. That did not help. And on thirdly, Tyrese Maxey re-aggravated an injury to his finger. And I think that's what really did it in. Because without Maxey, you really can't initiate any other offense. Paul George, we know what he is at this point. He is a high-end role player who can get hot occasionally. Really good defender, but offensively, hit or miss. We didn't have any depth. That's the other thing. The Knicks have a lot of depth, and I think the biggest problem that you guys are going to run into with them is that they're bigger than you guys. They are a big team. Like, that's the thing that people don't understand. They're not just like OG Anunoby, 6'9", Mikal Bridges, 6'6", Josh Hart, 6'4". Doesn't sound huge, but they're big guys. Like, they're strong, they're fast, like all these things. And then you have Mitch Robinson coming off the bench. You don't really have a lot of wing depth on that team, but you don't really need it with the trio of Hart, Mikal, and OG. And then you have really good guard depth coming off the bench. You got Alvarado, you have McBride, you have Landry Shamet. That's not even counting like Tyler Kolek.
Yeah.
Hasn't been much of a factor in the playoffs, but pretty good regular season. I think people underestimate the size of which. And I think we were also thinking, Nick Nurse is a better coach than Mike Brown. That is what we told ourselves going into this series. At least that's what I told myself. Anyway, Chris doesn't seem to agree. But I told myself that Nick Nurse is a better playoff coach than Mike Brown, and I was sorely mistaken.
Yeah, I think Lucas hit all the points I would have said. Joel got re-aggravated.
Mm-hmm.
Tyrese's hand was messed up. It's a bad matchup for Paul George with all those wings. Like, in the bench. We talked about the bench a ton in that series.
We have none.
Looking back at Boston didn't really have a functional bench unit, and the Knicks did, and that was a huge difference. So, I disagree on Mike Brown. I've been bullish on Mike Brown for quite a while. I think he's a very good and underrated coach. Maybe not so underrated now that we're seeing what New York is doing in these playoffs.
But like during the regular season, we both were saying, maybe they made the wrong hire with Mike Brown.
Yeah, that's fair. There were some weird things happening in the regular season, but I mean, ultimately they won a lot of games. And,
they did.
I mean, I was very bullish at the time on Mike Brown being better than Tibbs. I thought that was the right move, and I've retroactively been proven right. So I'm happy for Mike Brown. He deserves it.
Also, the last thing I would say is that we weren't expecting them to run the offense through Cat. We were not expecting that. That's going to be a problem for you guys. And here's the thing. They didn't even have to put OG on Wemby yet, and you guys already put Wemby on Josh Hart.
Yes.
And I get why
I thought they did a nice job of neutralizing Hart yesterday, by the way. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, I mean, look, Josh Hart is an X factor, but and I get why you did it, because you don't want Wemby having to chase Cat out to the perimeter, because then he can't shot block. You mitigate that by having another center on the floor. That's fine. I just... if you start another center and move Wemby to the 4, you're either taking Devin Vassell or Julian Champagnie. And Champagnie had actually pretty good game one. Let's not... Granted, he cooled off as the game went on, but still overall, 16 and 10, I think what it was. So look, that's...
Yeah, he was probably, again, one of the best players on the floor yesterday. He really was. And you got to give him that.
And
not bad for a guy that you guys kind of kicked to the curb up there. Not you guys, because I know you were a big fan.
I was a huge Chris, I don't know if you remember. I don't know. You weren't with the website at the writing for the Sixers Sense at this point, but when they signed him as an undrafted free agent on a two-way, I was like, guys, he's going to be something. I saw it in the tape. I'm like, look, he can hit shots. If nothing else, he can hit shots. If he can do more than that, great. Because he was like an okay defender in college, but didn't really have any size. Like, I wasn't expecting him to become a decent rebounder or playing the four, really. But I mean, like, look, you can make it work, but I think you need to go bigger against New York, and I think you just need to. It's going to be a tough matchup for you guys. Like, if I'm being honest, Dusty, like, and look, we're friends. This is me as analytical, not me trying to bust your chops, but I have the Knicks winning this in 6. I do.
Well, Lucas, and I respect your opinion, man. I know you know ball, and that's interesting. I did not know that you had said that or gone on record.
I said it on Uriah's podcast recently. We did a live stream with Zach.
On the NBA now and then podcast.
Basketball now. We are rebranded to basketball now and then. Yes. Okay. Yes. We did a live stream before game 1 with me, Uriah, and Zach Chavalello from Philly Sports.
Okay.
And we were just talking and we gave our predictions. But yeah, I have the Knicks winning this in 6. I think they win it in the Garden. I think they're too hot. They're bigger than you guys, even though you have the tallest player.
And we just played one of the biggest teams in the Minnesota Timberwolves, by the way.
Yeah, Ant was injured. Okay, Ant was injured. You guys got off lucky there that Ant was injured. I think that really hurt you. Look, I mean, I'm not trying to discredit your run here, but you guys did get a little lucky with injuries here and there. The Knicks did too with the Sixers. And who did the Knicks play? Well, no, the Sixers and they played Cavs and Hawks. So like they got lucky with the Sixers and the injuries. Cavs, I think they got lucky to get to the NBA Eastern Conference Finals because they dealt with injuries. Like, Orlando would have been a tough matchup for them. They almost lost to Toronto, and it was only because they won because both Quickly didn't play, and they lost Ingram halfway through the series. Like, you could argue that the Cavs shouldn't have been there, and it should have been either Detroit, Orlando, or Toronto. I would say probably Orlando or Toronto, to be honest. Probably Orlando. And Orlando would have caused the Knicks some problems because of their size. So,
Lucas, listen, I'm not going to argue with you because I know your background. I know you've been an editor for publications and in the basketball space, overseeing lots of different writers and so forth. So I'm just sitting here a little bit shocked, I guess, by the news that you picked the Knicks in 6.
It's nothing personal. It's nothing personal.
Of course.
It's just I think that they have the pieces and the OG Anunoby of it all. Let's not even mention that he's the best defender against Wemby per a minimum of 100 possessions. And they didn't even have to go to that in game 1. Cat played his mind off. Like we got to give Cat some credit defensively because in the past I think Cat has not has been painted as a bad defender, but against certain bigs in the playoffs, like he did a good job against Jokic a few years ago when he was in Minnesota, and now like he did a good job against Wemby in this game, like, and he basically bossed around Joel, like not to make Sixers fans mad, but like that. I mean, granted, Joel was injured, but like he like.
The other thing we didn't see from Cat was a lot of fouls. I, going into the series, thought, he's going to have a real difficult time staying out of foul trouble against Wemby.
Well, I think if that was the case, they would have switched to the OG.
Yes.
Yeah, but
still, that didn't happen at all. Like, that was not even an issue at all on the radar during first game, and I think that's a little worrisome.
Yeah, I think you guys get game 2.
Yeah, and I think the series is going to go longer than people in San Antonio expected, for sure.
It's 6 or 7 games. I have it in 6. I think New York. If New York's going to win it, they're going to have to win it in New York. So I think they take care of home court. So they're.
Although, what does that mean with a New York crowd? My gosh, we had about 6,000 New York Knicks fans in the building. Now you know
how we felt and when our matchup. They took over our stadium.
Every other team has felt. This is like New York fans can afford to pay the ticket prices,
Dallas
and
Cowboys
it's
fans.
cheaper for them. Honestly, it is honestly cheaper because I know I've got a lot of friends who I worked with on Wall Street who tell me it's cheaper for us to book a flight and a hotel and come and watch a game in San Antonio than it would be here in New York. That's the reality of it.
Mm-hmm.
And if that applies in San Antonio, that definitely applied in Philly where all they had to do is jump on a train for a couple of hours, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they show up in mass, man, and that home court advantage goes away pretty quickly.
It disappears. You don't have it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Chris,
So,
who do you what's your Dusty, what is your series predictions? Do you have one?
I was waiting for game one. And the only thing that I can say now is I believe this may be going down to the wire now. I wish I could see game two. I didn't go on the record before the series. I was concerned about some of the things we've talked about, that especially that appropriate level of fear. It's almost as if, honestly, the Spurs looked at the Western Conference Finals as the championship. That's
think,
the sense.
And look, and they're a young team, and maybe they just weren't meant, because the two veterans that you have in the rotation, Harrison Barnes won an NBA title, yeah, but he's past his prime. He can't really do it anymore. Let's be real. And then De'Aaron Fox has never been this far.
Well, here's the thing. I'm gonna push back a little bit on Harrison. Harrison can do it. Harrison was and is still a very good scorer, but your boy Julian Champagnie, thank you, Philly, came in and they made a change 3/4 of the way during when Harrison was in a shooting slump, and they inserted a guy who, unfortunately, and this is my biggest beef with Julian, is he's not consistent enough.
That's fair.
Julian wants a raise ASAP, and he deserves it, but I wish we had more 3-point shooting consistency on this team. If you can get that, oh my gosh, that becomes a very scary team. We don't have that right now. But, as we talked about earlier, when Julian gets going, they become unstoppable. Harrison has that wonderful wisdom that he can share with the guys, and there's nobody on the team who shows up in the way that Harrison shows up. He's always the very first one at practice. The moment he got to San Antonio, I had people telling me, guess who shows up like early in the morning in San Antonio? Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes. They're the first ones at practice every morning. And these guys are not just here for a paycheck. They want to take care of their bodies. They want to discipline themselves, show with their discipline these young guys how it's done. And so
hang on, Dusty, for 1 second before you continue. I gotta ask, do you think this team misses Chris Paul?
No, definitely not. Okay. Chris Paul though misses this team. You can tell that. Yeah, boy. And not that it was an option. I don't want to start a rumor that, if he had stayed with the Spurs, he could be facing, the possibility of winning his first championship. I've seen memes and stuff like that out there. No. That was never really an option.
He wanted to play too much, and they would have had him as an end of the bench guy, like Kyle.
My gosh, boy, did we deal with that. People yelling and screaming. Why is Chris Paul still starting over Stephon Castle? That was the story last year, right?
That was a fair question.
But the reason was because Chris was given a wink and a nod when he came to San Antonio, and he was guaranteed the one thing he wanted, which was a starting position in the NBA at all costs. Even if that starting position by the end of the year last year was, you get to start, but we're only leaving you in for 4 or 5 minutes. And that's what we saw. So, but in any case, I feel bad for Chris. And I know Chris is expected to be here probably the next game. So he'll be here, cheering on his former teammates and stuff. And boy, I feel bad for Chris. I do. But anyway, Harrison still got something. And I really hope they keep Harrison next year. He'll be a free agent this summer. But I know that the Spurs, and this brings us into, how do you build a team? I know that the Spurs are looking at every option. The same way that, by the way, San Antonio was looking at every single option before we've started to hear leaks and rumors now that they're going to give Julian a raise, even though they still have him for another year, or at least they have a team option, I believe, that they can exercise.
Yeah, it's a team option.
It's a team option. So, but the Spurs are always looking, man. Never stops, 24/7. They've got one of the best groups in the NBA, a whole staff of guys whose job it is to look at every option. And coming into the draft, I know you wanted to get into that. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have a lot of time. But you guys are excited about this upcoming draft.
Yeah, actually, before we get into that, you talked about evaluating guys. One of your guys is going to win a title regardless because now he's on the Knicks. We're talking about
That's
Jeremy
also
Shohan.
a falsehood, by the way, Lucas. That's also a falsehood. That is
wouldn't he get
wonderful.
a ring regardless? Because he was on both teams?
There's no such thing as a ring regardless. That's the team's option, the team's choice to give a player, especially a player who didn't really make it all the way through the season, who left, who got traded, and so forth. There's a lot behind the scenes that goes into that decision, in particular in this case, because Jeremy's departure was not a pretty one.
Can you? How much of that can you share with us now? Is there a lot?
Oh man, you had to go there. You just stepped in the poop.
Look, I'm going to ask you the hard questions.
Of course you are. I've been clear about this, and it's hard for me because I'm the usual, I'm the guy who comes in and says out loud things that nobody else is saying, especially in this media market where so much goes unsaid to appease the team. But I have been clear from the beginning, there are certain things that should stay behind the scenes with the team. That tells you, though, that should alert you to the fact that there was something that happened that went down. And it's not Mitch Johnson's fault. Everybody was blaming Mitch. Oh, he benched him. Oh, they didn't get along. Oh, this, that. No. In fact, I can tell you that from everything I've heard, Mitch was cheering him on and telling him, hey, I need you to be ready. I need you to be the best version of you that you can be. You never know when we might call you up. And but yeah, man, it got messy there. And Jeremy certainly, he's very good at selling tickets, or at least he was when he was here in San Antonio. But controversy and so forth. Right before the series, he says, I'm going to share with my teammates and my team everything I know about Wemby so that we can slow him down. Well, I don't know how much you can share that we don't all already see.
Yeah, that's fair.
But, this idea that Jeremy's guaranteed a ring no matter who wins, that's just, social media fodder.
So what you're saying is that if the Spurs win, that it does not appear he will get a ring from them.
Listen, I'll say this. Let's not even talk about San Antonio yet.
Yeah.
In the series against you guys, and in the series against Cleveland, did he even see the floor?
I think he saw some garbage time minutes against us.
Against you guys, in the blowout game, where the elimination game against Cleveland, he didn't even touch the floor, and he was the only player who didn't touch the floor. Then I didn't even see him during the Eastern Conference trophy ceremony. Look, I love Jeremy. I respect Jeremy. People think I have something personal against Jeremy. That's not true. I would say it if it were. I've supported him. I have definitely talked positively about him. I've also talked negatively about him. But it's a sticky situation. And yeah, to clarify what you are saying, it's going to be up to the team, up to the Spurs. There's nothing, in writing that says he has to get a ring, especially since he was, released in the way he was. You didn't even get any kind of a return for a guy that you selected with a first-round pick. How bad, toxic, whatever adjective you want to use, was the situation where the team and Jeremy decided it's time to move on. I'm not going to get what I want here in San Antonio. And San Antonio tried desperately for over a year to trade him for anything, anyone. As a matter of fact, what's interesting about that is there was some discussions with New York to get a trade done, right? And they fell apart. And there was also discussions with the Pelicans to try to get Jose Alvarado to San Antonio.
That would have been fun.
That almost happened, from what I understand. So, and people were like, why do you want Jose Alvarado? We got too many guards. Well, you see the type of player Jose Alvarado is.
Oh yeah.
And the type of energy, and you're going into the playoffs. He would have been
a perfect Spurs guy. He would have been
especially right now when you've got De'Aaron Fox disappearing. You know, like that's an interesting topic in and of itself. If the reports are true, and even if they're not, they came from so many different sources, and I reported about it, and I said, you know, this is for me, this is like a given that the Spurs were looking at Jose Alvarado. But anyway, long story made short, you know, Jose Alvarado is like Alex Caruso East, you know?
Yeah.
So, great guy. And he is very happy and loves it in New York, and I'm super happy for him. That's awesome, man. He deserves it. But the thing to talk about, or I don't know what it was you just asked me, but we were talking about the New York Knicks trade, the possible trade that almost happened there, where that would have sent us Yabusele and a young French guy who plays for New York, whose name escapes me right now.
Chris, you know who it is. It's
Pacom Dadier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dadier. My gosh, the Spurs loved Dadier going into the draft, and Dadier did not want to be a second-round pick. He wanted to go in the first round somewhere. Otherwise, he would be a San Antonio Spur. The Spurs really liked this kid, Dadier. And so they almost pulled a trade for that at the trade deadline to try to, you know, get something in return for Jeremy. And it fell apart because the Yabusele would not give up his second-year option or his option for the following season, which he ended up having to do anyway. But that, you know, once Jeremy saw, hey, there's a team that's really interested in me, he went knocking on that door, and here he is in New York.
Okay. All right. You were talking about players in the draft, and you were helping us transition to our next topic.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Listen, you know, you guys are excited. What draft picks do you have coming up?
22.
22. So you're actually behind us.
Yeah.
We're at number 20.
Yeah, we lost our pick in the Al Horford salary dump, but we were able to get 22 because we infamously traded Jared McCain to the Thunder.
And remind all the Spurs fans what's been going on with your front office.
Well, we fired Daryl Morey, and we thank goodness we did not fire Nick Nurse. Surprisingly, I think he saved his job with the Celtics here. Look, if you get rid of the GM, I always believe if you get rid of a GM, get rid of the coach, allow the new GM to get, president of basketball operations. Now, I told you, Dusty, that I'm a big West Virginia fan in college, and we hired Mike Gansey, who was a NCAA sweetheart back in the mid 2000s with West Virginia, beat Chris Paul in the elite, to get to the Elite Eight. Mike Gansey was the GM in Cleveland, so we'll see what happens there. But the draft room is still the same, basically under Brand, being run by Elton Brand. And Elton Brand was really the guy that drafted Tyrese Maxey. It was not Daryl Morey. It was
that's good news,
dude. Chris, I'm telling you, that's what Keith Pompey's told me. He said it on his own podcast. I trust Keith on that.
I don't believe that.
I do believe it. Daryl only came in a month before the draft. They already did. Daryl came in a month before the draft, and Elton did most of the legwork on the Tyrese Maxey pick already. Now, maybe Daryl called it in, but the work was done by Elton Brand, and Elton Brand pushed for it. Okay.
Yeah. Sure. I don't believe you.
Well, that staff.
You don't have to believe me. Believe Keith, friend of the podcast.
That staff of 12, 15 guys that are in the back room are the important ones because they're the ones going out and seeing the players, evaluating, looking at all statistical data, et cetera. And, where the big guys come in is, what is their mentality? What is their usual liking when it comes to these players? What are they looking at? And the only thing I can share is in San Antonio, you are always looking ahead. What are you drafting for, right? And in San Antonio's case, what they were drafting for the last couple of years was to try to get guards in here that were going to beat, theoretically, somebody like a Kyrie Irving or a
SGA.
SGA, Luka from the Lakers, especially a guy like Luka, who they thought, we're probably going to see these guys in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah.
Who do we bring in here to help us when that situation is in front of us? Now the question becomes for the Philadelphia 76ers, or at least the way they should be looking at the draft, the same question, which is, how or who do we draft to help us looking forward? Who's going to help us get over this hump, right? And I don't know, Christopher, I know you've got a lot of expertise in the draft, but hopefully that's what you're seeing as there are rumors and people coming in and out of workouts and stuff, that they are looking at what's going to help them get over that hump.
So there's two schools of thought here for the Sixers fans, and Chris, you can jump in whenever. But the first thought is find an eventual Joel replacement. At this point in the draft, at 22nd, I don't know if there is a guy that can be an eventual replacement for Joel. Obviously, not the same skill level, but a starting caliber center, right? That's one thought. The other thought is to find a playmaking wing, because one of the things that we noticed is Tyrese Maxey's not a true point guard. Neither is VJ Edgecombe. You want to have a point forward to pair along those two guys. So that's the thought of most. But basically, I'm like the thought of we need everything. Best player available.
Okay. That's fair, because you're not going to be finding a lot of really good big men available at 22. I mean, I know that because I've been looking and seeing, who's out there. And even the guys that are getting attention who are big men, they have issues that may not fit with our team. But, that's a hard space to fill.
Yeah, but Chris has better thoughts on it than I do.
Yeah, look, I think drafting anyone at 22 with the expectation that they're going to quote unquote replace Joel Embiid is just very wishful thinking. It's not that range of the draft. We're not in the top 10, but I would be totally fine with a backup center. There are some guys there that I like, and I think that's a totally valid use of
who are you looking at, Chris, when you say that?
I mean, I like Taurus Reed out of UConn and Zuby Ejiofor out of St. John's, guys like that. Henry Vesar out of
Reed
UNC.
is a guy the Spurs have looked at for sure.
Yeah, and I like all those
guys. Didn't you have
Chris
Sinek currently mocked to them?
Yeah, Chris Sinek I'd be a little bit less excited about, but there's a lot of potential there. I tend to agree with Lucas, though. I think really in most cases for most teams, just taking who you believe to be the best player on the board is the way to go.
That's the best way to go. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There are going to be
regardless of position, right?
Yeah,
because you can always flip him. You can always flip him if he doesn't fit.
Now, obviously, let's not do a Sam Hinkie and draft 3 centers in a row. But
well, yeah, but I still think that was the right strategy. The reason that didn't work is because those centers weren't good, not because he drafted 3 centers. So, like I'd be fine with if a point guard like Ibuka, Corey, or if Phylon and Sturts and those guys fall, I'd be totally happy with another
If Phylon's there
guard.
at 22, I will do a backflip. Not literally, because I'm too old.
I'd be very happy with that kind of outcome. I'd be happy with a wing.
Dalen Swain is somebody that we both like, but we don't think he's going to be there.
Probably
Chris Sinek is a guy that keeps showing up on mock drafts for you guys over and over. Right?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that particular player, that choice?
Raw prospect, needs a lot of work, probably cannot contribute right away to begin next season.
So you think the outsiders looking in at you guys don't see that?
I don't know if they see it or not.
I
also don't think he's big enough. I prefer my centers to be at least
6'10". He's 6'10" with a 7'5" wingspan. I don't think
that wingspan does make a difference. Yeah,
he's very big. That's not the problem. He's very athletic and he's very mobile and can defend out on the perimeter. I think there's a lot of exciting potential there. He's a good shooter. Came into the season ranked very highly as a recruit. Was a guy I think a lot of people thought would go into the lottery coming in. So there's some of that as far as just perception around his upside. My main concern with Sinek is that a lot of it is just theoretical at this point, and he has some very real weaknesses on defense. The processing on offense, he's not very physical in the paint. I tend to agree that he's probably not contributing as much right away as some of the other guys. I think I have him at 31 on my overall board. I wouldn't be mad with that pick. I would understand the thinking behind it. And at 22, again, if you want to swing for upside and just bet on tools, which he has more of than most people in that range, I'd be okay with it. But wouldn't be my personal favorite probably if it came down to that.
And it's going to be an interesting draft this year because this is such a deep draft, honestly, that you're going to get at number 20, 22, like we're picking at, you're going to get a guy who in a normal year would have probably gone, a lot
in the
sooner.
higher teens, yeah.
A lot. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that makes it sort of intriguing for me. Before I leave, because I've got to jump and I love you guys and let's do it again.
Absolutely.
My question has to do with your fan base. How is this passionate, amazing, whatever adjective you want to pick, fan base in Philly taking this defeat this late in the playoffs?
I mean, it's rinse, wash, repeat, right? I mean, losing in the second round, it hurts. It hurts. I mean, some fans would have rather just lost to the Celtics in the first round, I think.
But with so much promise, I mean, you had me and other people, I'm sure, calling you saying, wow, Philly looks amazing.
It
and
just
bam, you ran into a freaking brick wall.
Look, injuries are a part of this, and it just gives false hope is the bane of Philadelphia sports fans' existence. Let's look.
You're right, though. I can't argue. I'm laughing, but it hurts me for you guys.
I mean, yeah. Look, the Eagles just traded AJ Brown. Let's not even get into that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, But in all seriousness, I mean, for me, I think it's. And I think they did not even mention Paul George in the presser after they fired Daryl Morey, and I picked up on that. They mentioned Joel, they mentioned everybody else. They did not mention Paul George. If I had to I suspect that if they were to move one of the big three, he would be the one on the move. I think he has probably the highest value at the moment. Just because he played really good, Chris. He played really good, okay?
Yeah, well, yeah.
And you can't trade Joel right now.
Sure.
So, I mean, obviously Maxi's higher, but you're not trading Maxi. So it's really between him and Joel. You can get something back for him, reasonable parts for him. What those parts are, I could not tell you. Because, I mean, unless you guys want them, I don't know if you guys want them. You could use them.
No, but there was a guy on your team, I'll let you guess who it was, that the Spurs did try to sign when he was a free agent, and he passed on us.
Is he still on the team?
He's on your team. He's a very big...
Andre Drummond?
No.
Is it Quentin Grimes?
No. Wow. I thought you guys would have hit it on the first shot, really. He's a contributor for you guys.
Off-season?
Dominic Barlow?
No, Dominic Barlow came from San Antonio.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Was it this past offseason?
One of your starters.
So it was Kelly.
No. Last I knew, he was one of your starters. Did he fall out of the rotation? No, I think
just tell us who it is. We don't know.
Oh, come on. Really? Just go down the list of your guys.
Kelly Oubre?
No.
Kelly and Dominic.
Although I do love Kelly.
Trenton Wofford?
No.
Jabari Walker?
No.
We're not going to get this.
We're not going to get this, Dusty. You got to tell us.
Well, you've got some homework for next time then.
No.
Interesting.
No, tell us. Come on. I don't want to. Not just for us, but for the fans. The fans want to know.
We've gone through all our major players. I mean,
all right. Well, I'll leave it at that. All you got to do is look up the who the Spurs went after in free agency. You're gonna have to dig a little bit, but there was a free agent.
Okay, hang on. You sure that he is currently on the team?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go through the whole entire roster. Stop me when I get it right. Okay, because now you.
See you guys.
No, hang on, Dusty. You can't hang up. You gotta wait until we're done. But well, thanks, Dusty, for coming on again. We're gonna continue this episode after a brief commercial break, or maybe we will just wait until next time. Until next time, guys. Dusty, tell people where they can find you on Twitter, X, all that good stuff, and then we'll go ahead.
First of all, you got to follow me on Twitter now. I'm on every platform. I'm on TikTok. We're at Facebook. If you're a Spurs fan, you got to go look for Spurs Report on Facebook, which we're about to break, if we didn't already today, 70,000 fans. That's been a long love project for me that has been going on for years. We didn't hit 70,000 overnight. And then, of course, but where you want to keep up with me for all kinds of NBA and Spurs news, breaking news, is on Twitter. And definitely I'm starting to write more and more for Dunk Digest. I think Dunk Digest will be a really nice platform. We've got Scoop B covering the East Coast right now, Scoop B Robinson, who's always got, breaking news as well. So, and then other than that, who knows where my articles show up? They get picked up different places, different newspapers and so forth. But yeah, definitely check in and let's do this again. You guys are fun to talk hoops with.
Absolutely. Was it Justin Edwards?
No.
I don't know.
I'll tell
you
us
later. After. Okay.
All right.
All
right. Take care, you guys.
Right. So everyone, thank you again for listening. Please follow us on Twitter at SixerSense. I'm at Kline NBA. Lucas is at CoachJ_. You can find us on TikTok as well. Listen and subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. And until next time, go Sixers. Go Spurs. I don't think any Sixers fans want the Knicks to win. So
yeah, that's true. That's fair. I mean, look,
except Lucas.
I don't want them to win. I am looking at it analytically.
Okay, got it.
Okay, I'm rooting for you guys. I think they'll win.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.